Okay. So for those of you that are joining on, we are about to get started here. There we go. All right. And it looks like we're good on YouTube as well. Very good. Thank you. All right. And it's 6 o'clock. So we are ready to go. And I am very excited to have our Preservation Conversation 2021 kicking off. Let me also record this just so that we have a backup just in case we have any problems with our YouTube. So anyway, let's get started. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our first preservation conversation of 2021, Historic Preservation and Workforce Development with Marshall Ray. I'm Patricia Blick, Executive Director of the QQA, and I'm joined virtually by Shelley Stormo, our Membership and Events Coordinator. I want to thank our donors as well as our corporate and individual members. We are able to continue our educational programs with your support. You can find a list of our corporate members on our website at quapaw.com. If you are not a member of the QQA and you believe in our mission, preserving Greater Little Rock's historic places, we invite you to join and support the work that we do. Please go to quapaw.com to join for as little as $35 a year or to make a donation. And before I introduce our speaker, I just want to remind you that we will be taking your questions at the end of the talk. Please type your questions in the chat area of Zoom, and we're also sharing this program on YouTube Live, so you can enter your questions there in the comment section and we'll be monitoring them. We have mailed out our Preservation Conversation 2021 flyer. So if you did not get one in the mail, please let us know. Send me an email, patricia.blick@quapaw.com, or send one to Shelley at qqa@quapaw.com, and we will put one in the mail for you. You know, we usually have them also on hand in the visitor center, but we're still not authorized to reopen the visitor center yet. So we do have several that we can continue to share. So please let us know if you need one. Okay, on to tonight's preservation conversation. I am very pleased to introduce Marshall Ray. Marshall Ray spent 25 years in the Air Force working in air operations as a first sergeant and chief master sergeant. He also worked in civil engineering as a carpenter superintendent and readiness manager, as well as spending 21 years as a disaster first responder, working on civil action, hurricane recovery, and national defense. He's also worked as a vocational teacher. And once we're on with Marshall, he's also going to tell you a little bit more about his background. And I was trying to remember exactly, Marshall, and you can fill in the gaps here. When exactly did we meet? I think we met on Facebook. Was it tied to the jail? I'm not exactly sure, but I know somehow or another, I think we connected because of the jail maybe, but I'm not really sure. So maybe you can
oh, you're absolutely right.
Fill in the gaps on that.
I've been working with the folks in Lafayette County, Arkansas, to restore an 1827 jailhouse cabin that they have down there. It's on the most endangered, most need of being restored list from Preserve Arkansas this past year. And so I think, Patricia, you, someone that a friend of yours or acquaintance had expressed an interest, and you reached out to us, the people of Lafayette County and Louisville and me. And then I took it upon myself to come by one day with my student apprentice, Nathaniel.
Yes.
And barged in on your office, and
And there it was. Well, and I was wondering that. I was wondering if it was tied to the jail. And so in fact that was it. That was when we connected, or somehow connected in that fashion. Well, I am going to turn this over to you now. And if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen and jumping into your talk, I will do that, and I'm going to highlight you, and I am going to minimize myself. So there we go. It's all
So
yours.
you're ready, willing, and able.
We are ready to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity, Patricia. The work you're doing is just phenomenal. And this opportunity is, I consider it a true honor to put my thoughts out there. So with that, I'm going to start with my workforce development program. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Patricia highlighted some of my career, and I spent a lot of time in civil engineering responding to natural disasters and other contingencies for the U.S. government and the United States Air Force. But I started in construction at 13, working for my father, and upon graduation, I went to work for a historic restoration contractor and restored a number of homes in the inner city of Indianapolis, late 19th century, early 20th century. So that's enough about me. Let's see here. Scroll back. Am I scrolling the right way? I'm going the wrong way. Okay. The impetus for me in this workforce development is twofold. One, to develop a workforce that is trained specifically in historic restoration, preservation. Once we develop a workforce, and truthfully, there's not a dedicated workforce. There aren't trained artisans in the state of Arkansas that are groomed in the historic trades. There's a lot of great craftsmen. There's a lot of people that are qualified to do the work, but there's no training per se for that career path. And the money is a cut above your average wages. I'll highlight that further as we move along. We have an opportunity through this to revitalize our communities, capitalize on grants and incentives from the government, grow property values of the people that own these dwellings, and increase their personal wealth. The result is, I feel, will be a reemergence of a lot of our most renowned neighborhoods in central Arkansas. The education that I am advocating and some of the elements that I wish to include in that is to illuminate the history of our city, the structures that are in here, in the communities, and to add value to the skill of the artisans, and to institutionalize standards so that people, when they go into a historic setting and looking to restore it, they're familiar with what the standards of restoration are and how they can be compatible with modern day plumbing fixtures or electricity or gas or any of the utilities. It's highly specialized, and we need a workforce that is well versed in those requirements. In the process, we'll professionalize the trades, and I think that it's imperative for a craftsman to be able to communicate effectively with people that are professionals in their own right, engineers, design professionals, architects, government entities, nonprofits. All of those people are well versed and what the requirements are. They're highly educated, and communication in any setting is essential to success.
And I'm just going to jump in here just as a
Yes.
sidebar. You know, when we first met and talked about this, I was intrigued, of course, because I get literally on a weekly, if not a couple of times a week, people calling, asking for recommendations for craftsmen for very particular aspects of a project, or even for just a general project. And we do have some good craftsmen in Little Rock, but we do definitely feel there is we're short on supply. We do think that there is definitely a need for skilled craftsmen when it comes to historic rehabilitation. So it's intriguing to us as well to see a pipeline develop of professional craftsmen to help us maintain historic properties as well as restore and rehabilitate them. So I'm just going to throw that in there because it is certainly a need. Like literally, I get multiple times a week requests. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, and thank you, Patricia, for highlighting that. You and I both know that, but it's really good to emphasize that in every opportunity. And the picture on the side is that 1827 jailhouse cabin from Lafayette County, Arkansas. And it's also rumored that James Bowie spent a night in that cabin. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'd like for somebody to prove it false. Little challenge. Now, I want to talk about the education of an artisan. And I've got a young man that's working for me as an apprentice student. He's 16-year-old Nathaniel DeVries. He makes a wage as an apprentice, which is extremely attractive, and an extremely attractive aspect of the construction trades. His school studies include on-the-job training, and the pictures that you see on this slide are the project that he has been engaged in for the last, since about June, I believe. He's learned historic preservation skills and construction management. As part of his curriculum, he conducted an historic structures report on the Woodruff House. And at this time, I'm just going to ask Nathaniel to step over here and tell you a little bit about what he found when he visited the Woodruff House with Patricia and myself.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathaniel DeVries. I've been working with Marshall for almost a year now, and he's gotten some very great experiences along the way. So I'm just going to give you all an overview real quickly of my report that I wrote on the Woodruff House. So the Woodruff House was built in 1853 and is currently in need of restoration. So the outside needs to be repainted and remortared, and then the inside is where most of the damage can be seen just from years of decay and being empty. There's a section that has some fire damage, a little bit of termite damage, and then most of the decay, I guess, is just in the walls. You can see the plasters coming off. All the plumbing and electricity would need to be replaced. Flooring is actually in pretty good shape. There are some sections that will need to be replaced entirely, but most of it can be restored and used again. Doors and windows will all need to be restored. There are a few doors missing, but there are plenty of examples around the house that can be used as patterns. And the same goes for trim around doorways and for windows. And that's about it. That's the Woodruff House in a nutshell in its present condition. So that's all I have.
Well, Nathaniel, I was going to ask, I think I asked Marshall to maybe have you give us a little bit of what got you interested in doing this pursuing, some training in this field? What made you interested in working on historic properties, I guess, is really how it came to be.
Yeah, so Marshall and I live in the same neighborhood, and we actually, we only met about a year ago, but I love building and working with my hands, and creating something that can be used. And once I got to know Marshall a little bit, it turns out he's a very experienced carpenter, and and I'm interested in history, and he's interested in history as well. And so we did a little bit of communication, got together, and he started training me the basics of carpentry, and we've just kind of gone forth from there. So I still don't know yet how far this is going to go, but for right now, I'm taking every opportunity I have to learn more and gain some skills.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for sharing that, because it's interesting to find out or try to understand as we, are trying to cultivate this, what would get someone interested in pursuing, a career of this nature. So that is helpful insight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. I guess all of you can see why I'm so enthusiastic about this young man. He's truly exceptional. In addition to doing all the work he's doing with me, approximately 12 hours a week, he's got a full schedule of advanced high school curriculum. And as a result of everything you see on this page, he was selected for the recognition of outstanding work by a craftsperson for 2020 by Preserve Arkansas. And they're going to have the award ceremony next week. So if you have an opportunity, you might want to sign up for that. I think it'll be really exciting. There's a number of awards from throughout the state for every category you can imagine. So things are happening, and we're moving in the right direction with this. So let me go forward. The number of schools teaching historic restoration trades in Arkansas is 0. There's only one school that's dedicated to this, and it's in my backyard, as you can see in this picture. But the field is wide open. We need to do everything we possibly can. This is an I think we need to do everything we possibly can to develop the trades in Arkansas. The historic trades have so many advantages over and above just a normal craft job, construction worker job. And with that in mind, I'll talk about the historic district buildings in Little Rock. There's nearly 4,000. I said 3,700. I think it exceeds that, but we'll just round it off to 4,000 and say there's at least 4,000 structures in Arkansas that could theoretically be eligible for incentives and grants to bring them back to their historic standards. A 50-year-old house in your neighborhood could theoretically be eligible for that. Now back to the Woodruff House. Nathaniel described the condition of it very thoroughly and effectively. He got an A on that, by the way, for his semester grade. But it was built in 1853. It's a 7,000 square foot house. The present value is approximately $300,000, $43 a square foot. Estimated restoration cost is $2.4 million, $350 a square foot. Potential tax incentives, $1.4 million. I mean, you got to be close, you got to do it right, but it's an amazing potential. So the projected restored value is in the neighborhood of $3 million at $450 a square foot. As an example, the Baker House in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, granted, Charleston, South Carolina is one of the preeminent historic districts in the entire country, if not the world. But the Baker House, at present is selling for 4.2 million. It's a 6,500 square foot house, $658 a square foot. It was built in 1820. And as you can see in this picture, it is pretty extraordinary. There's no reason the Woodruff house couldn't look just like that or even better. If it's in Little Rock, it'll be better. This is a kind of an eye-opener if you're not familiar with the average hourly wages for craftsmen, but in the left column, you've got a typical carpenter at $19.50 an hour today working on a house in Maumelle, building a new house. A historic carpenter can almost double the amount of money they make by doing historic work accurately and effectively. So as you go down in this slide, you can see that there's a significant amount of potential for a quality artisan in the trades. Now, education. I'm going back to that. In Charleston, South Carolina, there is the American College of the Building Arts. It was founded in 1989 after Hurricane Hugo. As an aside to that, I deployed from Little Rock Air Force Base in support of hurricane recovery for Hugo. We actually landed before the wind stopped blowing. Spent over 30 days down there in Charleston restoring damage. So I had a firsthand look at how devastating the hurricane was. As a result of that, it took 10 years to rebuild the classic historic structures that were damaged by Hurricane Hugo. And the reason that it took so long is because they did not have the craftspeople available. They didn't have the artisans that could do the metal work and the blacksmithing and the stone cutting and so on and so forth. As a result of that, the citizens got together and they formed American College of the Building Arts. Now, this is a 4-year degree program. It's a trade education, and they study a specific trade track for 4 years, but it's also coupled with a liberal arts education. And as you remember, I mentioned the importance of communication in the construction environment, in historic trades, any kind of new construction or reconstruction. The most important factor in all of that is being able to communicate from the top down to the lowest level so that things are done correctly and not redone. The worst thing on a construction job is to have to tear something out and redo it. And in this case, if you don't build the window accurately, historically, you run the risk of not capitalizing on the incentives available for this type of work. The American College of Building Arts has programs in timber framing, architectural carpentry, plaster, classical architecture, blacksmithing, stone carving, and interior design and history of architecture. It's a first-class operation. It's been highlighted on This Old House, several trade magazines, Architectural Digest, things of that nature have looked at this, and the result of their initiative is that they're turning out highly skilled craftsmen that can demand the wages that I showed you here. Now, as luck would have it, I've been in contact with Dr. Wade Razzie, Chief Academic Officer, Professor of English, American College of Building Arts. And he told me, this is a direct quote, "We are currently in discussion with 2 groups. one in Pennsylvania and one in North Carolina, about establishing satellite ACBA campuses. This would significantly cut the amount of time for a school to receive accreditation and be eligible for student loans. And this is what he told me. If this is of interest to you, we could discuss it further. So as part of this further discussion, I'm establishing a working group with the support of Rachel Patton and of Preserve Arkansas, who has been unbelievably helpful in my efforts to move this along. In fact, she's the individual that initially got me involved in Lafayette County in the Bowie jailhouse cabin. So we're going to press forward to that, and I hope that we garner enough interest tonight that a few of you devotees of the profession will step forward and help me figure out how we're going to do this. And really, I'm in conclusion now when I say this is the Woodruff House, and I see a living learning laboratory for the reemergence of the celebrated trades, a textbook opportunity to reignite the artisan trades, reemergence of celebrated neighborhoods. The Woodruff House sits. Did I mess myself up here, Patricia? What did I do?
It looks like your screen sharing stopped. If you want to reshare it, it should pop back up. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
No,
Current slide.
Need to back up one slide. It looks like it went to the end. So just go one backwards.
Ah,
There you go. There you go.
I'm so glad you're there to rescue me. So in conclusion, the Woodruff House is a predominant point. If you're coming in to Little Rock on the highway, you can look up there, and if you look real close, you can see it. And when it is restored, it's going to be a shining example of what we're capable of here in Little Rock. And in the end, I see it as a classroom first, with students enrolled in the historic trades, restoring this structure for the benefit of everyone in the city. And that's all I've got, Miss Patricia. Are we good?
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm going to make a little modification here. So we are talking to each other this way. And let's see, it started screen sharing again for you. So I'm going to turn that off. So
Okay.
one of the things I'm going to mention, and we talked about this obviously as we were getting ready for this presentation, and the program that you highlighted in Charleston is very interesting. But would you talk a little bit about, you did not go that route, obviously, with the Air Force. You went another, even though it was not, I'd say traditional higher education, you had a very prescribed route to achieve master carpenter status, correct? I mean,
Yes.
there are opportunities. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is there are opportunities even in maybe avenues people are not aware of to gain these skills and these pedigrees that allow you to really demand high wages, with living wages, beyond living wages.
Absolutely. Well, I'll use Nathaniel as an example. He's going to graduate from high school in a year and a half. He's going to make some choices about his future. Traditionally, one of the most chosen career paths is to go to college. And college is 4 to 5 years. It entails a lot of expense, possible debt that the graduate is saddled with upon graduation. You can take the same individual, Nathaniel, and he could choose to be an electrician or a plumber or a heating and airman or a carpenter. And he could go to work for a well-organized and effective construction organization and earn a decent living as he learns the trade. And by the time 5 years is up, or four, normal college graduate, he is at a journeyman level, drawing a living wage without debt and ready to hit the ground running. If he wants to get married, start raising a family and things like that, it is a viable option. It's more than viable. But there has been in the past a bit of a stigma attached to construction workers as people that are not as educated and possibly not as astute as other professions or endeavors. And it's simply not the case. The mathematics attached to being a carpenter is on a higher plane normally. A mistake in mathematics in a construction in the foundation wreaks havoc throughout the process. So it's not for the faint of heart. And yeah, you're not going to be sitting in an office, generally speaking. You're going to be out in the weather and it's hot and all, but the money's good, and there's just tremendous options available there that are viable options and worthy options. And our society needs builders as well as they need engineers and architects and lawyers and doctors and everything else. We need to have every aspect of our society's needs covered, and certainly construction is a primary element of those needs. And the American College of Building Arts could very well be a threshold moment for us, or something like it.
Well, I think it would be interesting to learn about their program a little bit more. And one of the things I was thinking about is, there is a lot of pressure, societal pressure for people to go to college, even though it isn't always a good fit for everybody. But if you graduate with, did you say a bachelor's of building administration or building sciences? So you have that piece of paper. My thought is, and I don't know, is it expensive? I mean, do they have a lot of scholarships, or is it subsidized in a certain way? Or are they also graduating with a great deal of debt? That I do not know. But I think it's very interesting.
That's possible that they are in this particular case. But they are also, as for Nathaniel, when he graduates from high school, he's going to have all the options in the world available to him, because he's really sharp and he can go into any line of endeavor he chooses. But if the pandemic hits and he's out of a job, he can pick up his hammer and go to work and keep his family fed. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Right. And we do know that there are still projects moving ahead, certainly downtown around us here, either projects that are already in the pipeline or projects that are moving ahead. And of course, the QQA preservation organizations like us or Preserve Arkansas, we would endorse restoration and affordable housing of the, let's fix up our current building stock, or even put in infill housing within our historic neighborhoods where the infrastructure is already there too. So, there could be a combination of both rehabilitation as well as new construction. So it's not one or the other. It's really, the two of them tied together. One of the other things I know we were going to touch on when we were getting ready for this talk is a little bit about, the Woodruff House. And when we talked about that as a case study, or as, incentives that are out there, really the tax credits are the tip of the iceberg, because depending on how that property is used, there will be opportunities with new market tax credits. It's not as big as the sort of the minimum threshold for that, but there are opportunities to bundle those with other, multiple small projects. It's in an opportunity zone. So if folks are looking at areas where they might also want to shelter capital gains, it's a long-term investment. But that is really the tip of the iceberg. So when we have discussions with people who are interested in the Woodruff House, they need to look at multiple layers of incentives. So state tax credits, federal tax credits, new market tax credits. Can they take advantage? Do they have investors who could take advantage of opportunity zones? So really, yes, it is an expensive endeavor. Absolutely. We acknowledge that freely. But it's also a worthy endeavor. It's a significant property associated with an important early Arkansan, and also the other historic events have taken place there. So really there are many aspects to that project that make it more feasible, we should say. It's never going to be an inexpensive project, but how do we make it more feasible? So one of the other things I was just going to mention, and you mentioned it as well, is Nathaniel is going to receive the award from Preserve Arkansas. So their event is going to be virtual, because this is the day and age that we're in, and you can still get tickets for it. So if you just go to Preserve Arkansas, Google Preserve Arkansas, you can still get tickets for that event, which is going to be the 22nd. So it's next Friday. So it's just a little over a week away, a week from tomorrow. And so a lot of good projects that'll be recognized throughout the state, and some certainly that are in Little Rock too. So it's gratifying to see that as well. So congratulations, yes, to Nathaniel. I think Rachel made a note of that in the comments as well. So I don't think we have a lot of questions necessarily, unless folks are going to jump in with some right now. Let me see here. I don't think I see any other ones, but do appreciate, getting this dialogue started. And as we know, there has been an effort that had been initiated, I think at least a decade ago, where there was an effort to try to get a program going, that it just didn't seem to get ignited and go. So let me see. We do have a question over here from Carol Young. Has Pulaski Tech been contacted to add this to their curriculum? Also, public schools are moving towards programs that are both college and work oriented. Could this be pursued? I think people in the Delta need job training. Any thoughts on that?
Nickel? All right. Well, let me say that all those points are valuable, and could be pursued. I will say that the success of trades training is the partnership with industry professionals to ensure that the student is trained effectively and appropriately, so that they can supply the need that is out there. In my experience, and I'm 68 years old, I've been around a while. There has, and one of the concerns that people in the industry have is that students who graduate from a vocational curriculum are not necessarily ready to hit the ground running when they hire onto the job, and they really need to be trained for specific jobs and understand what that job entails in the real life setting. Northwest Arkansas Community College is doing phenomenal work as we speak to supply Tyson and several other of the industry leaders in Northwest Arkansas with qualified, educated and trained and ready to work individuals. So with that, and now I'll answer the Delta. There have been numerous efforts to develop a job training program environment, academics in the Delta region. They have not met with as much success, or they've met with limited success, let's put it that way. One of the advantages, I think, of having the type of training program that I've outlined in Little Rock is that it is easily accessible for the decision makers of the state if it's centrally located. I mean, just for the heck of it, the governor might want to walk in someday and see if that stuff is working the way it should. And it's not a full day ride to go to Northwest Arkansas or Southwest Arkansas. If we have a model here in the central city, there will be much more emphasis placed on it simply by its location, coexisting with the decision makers of the entire state.
We did have another question from Betsy McGuire. She was wondering, how is Nathaniel's pay funded?
Out of my pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, he does good work and he's worth almost every penny I pay him. And, but I am committed to this revitalization of the trades, and this is part of the price I'm paying. Of course, I'm getting a roof over my fireplace built by the Historic Craftsman of the Year from Preserve, Arkansas. So, you know, that ought to add something to my property value.
That works out. Yes. Yes. Well, it's been, it's inspiring and illuminating, because, you know, it really shines a light on the fact that we don't have a great opportunity for someone who wanted to pursue a career like this in Arkansas right now. And, you know, illuminating for anybody who owns a historic property. I mean, they know it. They know that it's hard to find folks to do good work. So I think it's something we need to continue to continue this dialogue about and support you how we can, because it would help all of us, frankly.
Could I interject here?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I have been a great admirer of Jimmy Carter, our former president, and the work he's done with Habitat for Humanity and giving back. And this is where I find myself. I feel like I've been called by Providence to pursue this. With that in mind, I am available to further discuss this, give this presentation, or even give you some insight into the process and the challenges of historic restoration. Thank you.
Well, I think we will. I think we will have opportunities. You will have opportunities, and certainly we can help support, you know, those endeavors that you do. And just other comments from other folks. Thank you all for what you do. From Amber Crouch. Thank you for what you're doing, Marshall, and congratulations to Nathaniel. Yes, many congratulations. Just good discussion. And of course, Betsy is dealing with some historic properties as well up in Russellville. So appreciate you jumping in on this, Betsy. I'm going to go ahead and screen share again. So I'm not going to be able to see comments for a few minutes. So I'm going to screen share and then we can circle back. But I just want to mention our next upcoming preservation conversation. And I think you all know we did. It is going to be on Thursday, February the 11th at 6 p.m. and it will be virtual. It's Amber Jones, who is also going to present on historic rehabilitation tax credits. And we did have a rehab tax credit talk at the end of the year, but we thought that the timing of this talk, again, we're having a different speaker as well, would be good. And I'll explain why. We are working with our statewide preservation partner, Preserve Arkansas, to raise the overall cap for the state historic rehabilitation tax credits during this legislative session. We have a draft of our proposed legislation. Let me know if you would like a copy and would reach out to your state representative and senator garner their support for the legislation. Our legislation has not been introduced yet, but like I said, we have a draft bill, and we are looking at increasing the cap, because I think for those of you who are doing historic rehab tax credit projects, you know that the cap was met this year very quickly, literally the day the fiscal year started. So the $4 million cap was met. So our hope is to get that cap significantly increased so that many more projects are able to take advantage of the tax credit. And again, this will be a Zoom presentation, and it'll be on YouTube Live. So if you just go to quapaw.com, you'll be able to register for the program. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to our comments, and just a lot of thank yous, and happy to hear from Sharon Colton, who just rejoined. I got her something from her today. Sharon's not currently with us in Arkansas, so I'm glad that you could be here with us, Sharon. Thank you. So unless you have any other comments, Marshall, or anyone else has comments in the Ethernet, I think we are good to go.
Well, thanks again, Patricia. I really am happy that I was able to do this.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for helping
Your
us kick off.
Great work, because you're really making an impact.
Well, thank you. You feel, I'll tell you, you feel like you're making progress, and then you get stymied by something else, but we just can't, we just can't give up. That's our motto this year, is never, never, never give up. Last year, we had a success that we did not expect. I try to stay optimistic, but honest to goodness, there were moments when I thought we were done, and it came through for us. And we'll use that mantra for you as well. Last year's theme was keep calm and preserve on. So our idea was like, let's not lose our wits about ourselves. Let's just keep moving forward, keep our composure, and just keep preserving. So very much appreciate you. Say thank you very much to Nathaniel for us as well, and congratulations. David and I are going to be watching Preserve Arkansas next week as well, so we'll get to see a little bit more about that. So we're very excited for him and for you for cultivating this talent and this skill in him. So I think we're ready to sign off. So I just want to say thank you, everybody. Everyone stay safe and healthy.
Okay, thank you.
And we will see you next month. And certainly reach out if you have questions about the tax credit. Oh my goodness, there's Monroe.
Say goodbye.
There you go. Yay. Bye, you guys.
Okay, bye, Patricia.